French people watching the new movie about Napoleon. It's in English. Did that not cross anyone else's mind? The entire trailer, they're literally just speaking perfect American English. I mean, I kind of understand it's just one of those things you have to do to get people to watch the movie. It is a bit weird though, because the French really like their language. There's also evidence that Napoleon tried to learn English. We don't know how good he got though. He was exiled for 6 years after it was all said and done, so you gotta keep yourself busy somehow. If I hear one more time that you did it to civilize us, says all of Latin America. Meanwhile, Spain, I did it for the gold. I liked it. I was good at it. Spain has a really different philosophy when it comes to their old colonial days. They don't pretend at all to be sorry for it. They're just like, yep, we did that. It was cool. The United States in European history books, what they doing over there? The United States in Latin American history books. Meanwhile, the United States in South Korean history books. And you know what? While we're on it, probably Taiwanese history books as well. Just two places kind of close to each other that probably really appreciate the US. Other European nations watching the USSR declare war on Poland in 1919, only to be pushed back and lose Kyiv. That must have been the greatest twist, and it was right after WWI too. See Poland get this type of a dub was probably a much needed moment. Everyone always forgets about that. When someone says Germany started WWI, so you end up explaining the concert of Europe and the Russo-Japanese War. And this isn't even how far he really should be going back. In order for me to answer that question, I gotta go back to the old hunter-gatherer days and start there. FDR, after being president during the Great Depression and WW2. I can tell you right now, he's probably pretty exhausted. And he also had to rule for longer than any other president ever. What a chaotic era he had to be elected for. Mare Nostrum, says this Roman legion. Meanwhile, NATO saying the exact same thing. Meanwhile, it's just a little bit different. It's like along the Baltic Sea now. NATO is getting closer and closer to these Roman borders though, you gotta admit. They're actually getting a lot more barbaric lands though, aren't they? According to the Romans. The Fall of Constantinople. Okay, I've definitely looked into this Wikipedia page maybe a dozen times. Before the siege of Constantinople, it was known that the Ottomans had the ability to cast medium-sized cannons. Those cannons were employed Turkish cannons, founders, technicians, mostly that word Orban. Orban? Isn't that kind of familiar? A Hungarian, though some suggest was German, was somewhat... No way. Dude, are you guys getting where this is... No way, the current Prime Minister of Hungary. How long has this man been around for? And here he is, being cool with Turkey. He's actually existed for... There he is. He has been around for at least several centuries. It's confirmed now. I always knew. Maybe he's like a Romanian vampire, too. He lives forever. Good heavens, says Spain. Would you look at the time? In an hour, I gotta invade Portugal, and the next hour, I got a siesta. And the next hour, I gotta invade Portugal again. The next hour, I have to siesta. Invade Portugal, siesta, invade Portugal, siesta. That's pretty much the only two things on Spain's to-do list throughout their entire history. We'll colonize all of Latin America too, but they can invade Portugal at the same time while they're doing that. It's just kind of a smaller footnote. Central American flags have gone too far. At this point, like, we're gonna need somebody to change it up. You can't all have the blue, white, blue, some icon in the middle. If I was a small nation in Central America, I would just go with the wildest flag imaginable. Like, throw some like pink and turquoise in there. Try to stand out. Pull up those tourism dollars. That's the Costa Rican flag. I mean, it's alright. Still a severe lack of shades of orange, if you ask me. The French, Spanish, and Dutch perspective on why they sided with the US during the American Revolution. I don't care if you win. I just need the UK to lose. Oh, absolutely. If there's any American that thinks otherwise, I've got some really depressing news for you. And honestly, can you really blame them? They didn't know who we were. They were just worried about this like overbearing menace that was growing in the north here. Time traveler sneeze. Meanwhile, Barcelona. Apparently, the Eiffel Tower was almost built in Barcelona, Spain back in the day. Eiffel originally pitched his tower to the city of Barcelona, Spain. They rejected it, worried it would be an eyesore, which was actually how the French also thought of it when it was first built. Imagine if this city did not have the Eiffel Tower. Like, would France even still be so iconic? France is still, to this day, the #1 visited place on Earth, and it's probably almost entirely because of the Eiffel Tower. I really wonder, if the Eiffel Tower is built in Barcelona, does anybody care about it? Like, I'd imagine there would just be another landmark to come to basically represent Paris. I personally have always been a fan of the art. I have the best navy of all time, says the British. No, I do, responds America. Meanwhile, off screen, amateurs. What was that? punk amateurs, screams back the Czechs. Fun fact, I actually didn't know this, the Czech Navy has never lost. Please don't tell me that's because they've never had a navy. Okay, they have had one battle ever, and they've won 100% of them. Hey, one of one, a dub's a dub. When your stupid Emperor LARPing military inept nephew gets baited into a war only to get captured and unify Germany in the process. Yeah, Napoleon probably wasn't too happy about that. Napoleon III wasn't really living up to his name at that point. Of course, he was always living in Napoleon I's shadow. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but he also had some pretty big blunders. Random American farmers crossing to the other side of the entire dang country just to settle in some useless land so the British can't have it. That's how much we did not want the Brits to be there. Upend our entire life, almost oof our entire family. But you know what? Manifest destiny. The Allies, after being told to maybe not fight Napoleon after getting their poop stomped in 5 times in a row. I mean, the problem is eventually they did win though, right? I mean, they just had to get destroyed several times. Basically had to take L's for 10 years. Movie about Napoleon, perhaps the most complicated man in history. Unfortunately, it's made by the director of Gladiator. I don't agree with that. I mean, history nerds are always gonna be like upset about the historical inaccuracies. It's a movie. There is always gonna be a number of historical inaccuracies. Actually, some of my favorite history movies are not historical at all. I feel like it's more important to have people entertained and hopefully get people interested in the topic to research it themselves. Indians in WW2 fighting for the Allies. Meanwhile, also Indians fighting for the Axis. What are you guys doing over there? I think overall India just wanted to be independent. It's probably the only thing they cared about. This is way better than bruh, no cap. Sorely missed Victorian slang. We have giggle mug, which means always smiling. Be the pot or pour the tea. Got the morbs, temporarily sadness. Is this a Morbius reference? Tight as a bold owl, drunk. Poked up, embarrassed, sauced box. I feel like I've heard that before. Oh, sauce box? And I can't even do the last ones, but maybe we can bring these back. I'm gonna be like that owl. Calling Greek Polis Greece and calling Italian kingdoms Italy. All of you get out. Except you stay. Calling the USSR Russia. This one is kind of a tough one though. I don't know. Probably not the person to talk about the right naming of things. I still like to say Byzantium instead of Eastern Rome. How I sleep knowing the Russian space dog survived space travel and her daughter had 4 puppies with President John F. Kennedy's terrier. Kennedy called the pups Pupniks. Oh my goodness. So there was at least one Russian space dog that survived. I'm always so sad when I'm reminded of this one. Harry Truman watching Oppenheimer bemoan how guilty he is over the atomic bomb when he didn't even give the order. Yeah, Truman famously wasn't, I guess, a big fan of Oppenheimer, or at least didn't like what he was talking about. Can't wait to see if the movie discusses this. My family and girlfriend, please don't bring back the Eastern Roman Empire while we're in Greece. Meanwhile, me, 2 seconds later. And here is the Eastern Roman Empire in the year 2023. What we have to do is invade a bit of the Caucasus, Turkey, the Balkans. I think maybe I won't even have to do some of the invading. These countries will just all decide, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, I'll do that. Rome handing over Carthage some pieces of paper. The second Punic War scorecard. We lost more men, we spent more money, Roman lands bore the brunt of the devastation, we won, you lost. You know, I thought this myself as well, but I didn't want to bring it up. It is a bit weird, but yeah, okay, Rome, second war. I guess they ultimately got the dub. Rome's political system, meanwhile, also Rome's political system. Sometimes it was nice, sometimes it wasn't so nice. Sometimes it was just horrible. Could you briefly explain Rome? Oh god. There's no such thing as briefly explaining Rome. I'm gonna need like 3 days to go over the... What's that part of the book that is like the beginning of the plot? Exposition. Oh yeah, the exposition. France then. I speak a language closer to what the Franks spoke. Mine is the only Celtic language in all of France. My language kept its pure Latin influence. Meanwhile, mine is spoken across 3 different countries. Finally, France, now French with Parisian accent. Also French with Parisian accent. That's, yep, okay. There's probably several reasons for this happening, but I think a big one is just the radio and then other mass media. That's gotta be to blame for getting rid of the more more like authentic accents. I mean, there's way more other things than that too, but that's just a side thing that I was saying. Generally speaking, in the south of the US, dialects are fading away. Nobody 17th century British formations. Why do I only have a flag? At least give me a pistol. Meanwhile, all these other doges with AKs in the 17th century, yes. Also, I'm a drummer, but at least I'm in the back. Put me on that job. How do you get that job? Just put me in the back. Don't worry, when my friend gets shot, I will keep drumming away. Didn't even like that guy anyways. Ooh, the annual Historical Leaders Who Are Good People for Modern Standards meeting. Oh, would you look at that? There's nobody here. By modern standards, it's almost like, nobody is good. What? That's crazy. European dynasties telling themselves they're the one true successor to the Roman Empire. I mean, if they don't tell themselves this, then nobody else surely will. Kind of one of those things you just gotta reinforce inside of your own mind. Czechoslovak soldiers leaving Russia after betraying both sides of the Russian Civil War, seizing an imperial gold reserve and taking over the Trans-Siberian Railway. Man, what a blast they must have had. It was out there just trying to have a little bit of fun, I guess. Welcome to Polish literature, kid. We have the book All Polish Teachers Love a Little Bit Too Much. Yeah, it's full of descriptions of the Commonwealth traditions. Meanwhile, we have the 8 Witcher books. Great and original fantasy story. And finally, the book in which Jesus didn't get oofed for the sins of humanity, but he stepped down from the cross and punished sinners and conquered Rome. Wow. Oh, wait, no, actually, there's a different reaction to that. I'm actually interested. I kind of want to read that now. I'm kind of an alt history fanboy. If you're talking alt history scenarios, I'm gonna be there. German High Command in 1915 receiving word that 7,000 soldiers abandoned their positions at this fortress because the Russians had risen from the dead and charged their trenches as zombies. You know, I don't even know if I would want to get more information about this. Just gonna roll my eyes and move on. Why am I not surprised? No, just because you call yourself an empire doesn't mean you are one, says France and Britain. Meanwhile, the Empire of Brazil and Mexico, we are giants among ants. I mean, technically anyone could call themselves an empire. I wonder what's stopping the Vatican City. The Vatican City Empire. Maybe just because it doesn't sound that great, but why not? Big thanks to my patrons. I have cloned Drew and I'm now training him to fight the imposter doing these videos. Subscribe to Drew now. John Denver. Australia is real. I am not a fat normal Argentinian grandpa. Amateur archaeology. Inquisitor. KirinoIsBestGirl. Luxembourg Lover. Robert. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The Mexican Hamster. And why am I doing this?